Today, we know that Arbeia Roman fort, now in South Shields, guarded a Roman port at the mouth of the Tyne, the arrival point for visitors to Hadrian's Wall. But its secrets have lain buried for almost 2,000 years. And it's only over the last 40 years that archaeologists have really begun to discover the history of Arbeia.
I think it's one of the gems of South Shields, having our own Roman fort, and a definite connection with Hadrian's Wall as well. This was the port for supplies coming in, so it was a very important base. Today, moving it forward into our century, it's very important as a tourist attraction. I've been in France and Italy and places over there, and people know about Arbeia, which is great. They know about South Shields.
In those 40 years, 8,000 years of history were unearthed, with the biggest dig of all here, on the site of the commanding officer's house.
Quite a few years ago, I found myself working on the excavation of the courtyard house, the commanding officer's house, in the southeast corner of the fort. And on one particular day, I was excavating in the hypocaust. I remember distinctly finding a tiny bronze coin, which is great when you find a little coin on a dig. But that wasn't the end of the story. As I excavated through the soot, there was more and more and more coins came to light, and eventually a broken pot, which was a smallish pot, wasn't complete, but it looked like it had been holding all these little bronze coins in.
Casting my mind back now, I was given a job that day of clearing out the bottom of a drain. I saw one stone that seemed to have a funny line on, and I thought, shouldn't be there. It's odd, that one. So brought it out and had a look, and it was still attached to clay, and I thought, I've got something here. Got some water, poured it on, and then dropped it in my lap. And this little face was looking up at me. It was fantastic. It was just a lady's face. And I thought, oh wow, she's lovely. It was suggested that this lady was Brigantia, a goddess of the Brigantes tribe, which is a northeastern tribe.
Archaeologists discovered that in 5000 BC, Stone Age hunter-gatherers would camp here. Then in 200 BC, Iron Age farmers built a roundhouse here. And then in AD 120, the Romans built a fort at the mouth of the River Tyne. On this very spot, Roman soldiers practiced their drill on a specially built training ground.
500 people at least living in the fort, and all the people living in the village they must have needed lots of fields, lots of animals grazing, and these finds, sometimes you can see from the bones where how it's been butchered, tells you how these people were surviving and thriving.
In AD 208, the Emperor Septimius Severus came to Britain and made Arbeia the supply base for his campaigns north of Hadrian's Wall.
I think the period of the early 3rd century, when it became a supply base for Septimius Severus's campaign into Scotland, it would have been a hugely important site, and there would be people coming from all over, families of the soldiers living outside, and it would have been a very important staging post, and must have been a very interesting place at that time.
During the time that Severus was here, the whole of the Roman Empire was ruled from South Shields. Without archaeology, we would never have known this.
In terms of what the artefacts one finds, it does give you a direct connection to how people lived 2,000 years ago, and just very ordinary utensils or broken bits of pottery, give you a connection back to the past, really.
Over time, Arbeia became the supply base for Hadrian's Wall, with 24 grain warehouses or granaries constructed on this site. And it also became the base for the soldiers of the 5th cohort of Gauls. One of their barracks has been reconstructed alongside the commanding officer's house. Arbeia was thriving until AD 270, when disaster struck. There was an enemy attack, and all of the barracks were burnt down. Many precious objects were lost in the fire, including a gold ring and a suit of chain mail, which were later found.
But I was excavating a an area of burnt daub from a Roman wall that had collapsed within a Roman barrack. It was a great surprise when I saw this gold object, and it was, like absolutely beautifully preserved, like a gold ring one would see on somebody's hand. It had a precious stone, an intaglio of goddess Fortuna on it. So it was within a Roman barrack, but a centurion would have occupied part of it, so it could have belonged to his wife. But it obviously had been hidden in that wall with the intention of coming back to recover it at some stage.
Around AD 275, a force of boatmen from the river Tigris in Iraq was stationed at the fort. It was also then that the commanding officer's house was built. By 410 AD, the last Romans were killed defending the fort. The remains of 2 of the defenders were found buried right here in the courtyard of the house. So what happened after the Romans? An Anglo-Saxon king, Oswin, was born in the Roman fort in the early 600s. Objects found on the site come from the Saxon royal site here. Around AD 900, Arbeia was burnt by the Vikings and abandoned. Long forgotten as a place that used to be at the heart of the Roman Empire, after AD 900, this site was used as a stone quarry and disappeared under ploughed fields. Had it not been for local people, the rich history of Arbeia could have been lost forever. In 1875, the first archaeological excavations took place. Although many discoveries were made, in 1880 the site was mostly covered with terraces of houses and a school, and it remained that way until the 1970s.
You don't have to go to Rome to see Roman artefacts and things like that. You can go to South Shields. It's wonderful for the town to have this fort here, and I'd love to see it develop more and more.
So somebody estimated there's 100 years worth of archaeology still to excavate, and there's large areas that haven't been touched, and there's many prehistoric sites underneath the Roman buildings, and a fort that predates the main one that we see now. So it really is a treasure trove of history and artefacts.
Oh well, it's always been exciting. It's finding a Roman brooch or a button. You've also got something to go home to. After the day, you take whatever it is and clean it properly and study it, and then get the books out that are relevant and find out about it. That's what's good.
And since 1977, as in 1875, local people have always been involved in the excavations and have helped to unearth the secrets of Arbeia and the people who have lived here from Stone Age times up to the present day.